how you can watch that and not get totally excited just about, I mean, are we the luckiest people in the world or what?
Yeah.
And if you're here tonight, hopefully you understand how fortunate and how blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it, you are to be in this building at this time. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about our story in just a little bit, but you know, really, I attribute our success because we were fortunate enough to get involved in Primerica, and then we have the best leadership in Primerica. Okay, so, and I'll talk a little more about that as I go. But before I'm not sure which screen to look at. I think we should have maybe a fourth screen up here. I'm not sure. In my office, I have one screen because, you know. But anyway, so I'll go through this and hopefully I can figure this out. But what I want to do is I want to talk to you about the opportunity of working within our company and just kind of maybe how to think a little bit better. Actually, before I go to this slide, let me back up for a second. Brendan showed that slide towards the beginning of the meeting where he talked about only 1% become wealthy, right? I don't ruin this if you've heard me say this before. But only 1% become wealthy in the United States of America. So again, who's here for the first time tonight? Just raise your hands, don't be shy. So tell me your name, ma'am. Holly. So if only 1% of the United States become wealthy, what are your odds of becoming wealthy in the United States of America? Like 1%, right? Who else is new? Who? Tell me your name again.
Colton.
How about you, Colton? What would you say? 1%. 1% become wealthy. Anybody else? Yeah, tell me your name again. Ryan. What are odds of becoming wealthy? 1% become wealthy. Really low, okay? Everybody pretty much says 1%, dummy, right? It's 1%. That's what I would have said too. I would have been wrong. You're all wrong. I would have been wrong too, okay? Do you know what your odds of becoming wealthy in the United States of America are? They're actually 100%. If you learn how to think like the wealthy think. Because if you think like the wealthy think, guess what you'll start doing? You'll start doing what the wealthy do. And if you think like the wealthy think and do what the wealthy do, guess what you'll become? You will become wealthy. You cannot think like the wealthy think, do what the wealthy do, and not become wealthy.
Right.
So, how are you going to learn how to think like the wealthy think? You've got to start learning from the wealthy. Now, the reason I say this is because by the time I'm done tonight, you're going to be all jacked up and excited. Now, remember, 95% don't make it. 95%. 95% are broke. Which means 95% are incapable of giving you good advice when it comes to becoming wealthy or successful. They're incapable. They can't do it. They are not successful, therefore they cannot. So when you go talk to your coworkers at work tomorrow after you're all excited, and they say, oh, you're crazy, that thing's a scam, they're the 95%. Should you listen to them?
No.
When it comes to success, no. Are we clear?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately that happens all the time, believe it or not. People are all excited, they join our company, and then they go talk to their Uncle Vinny, who says that thing's a scam. I know Fidelity just invested over $200 million with them, but they're still a scam. Okay, you with me? All right, so I don't need to spend a lot of time on this because I think we already know about this kind of stuff. What's happening to jobs today? It's pretty crazy, huh? A good job just doesn't exist anymore. There's no such thing as a good, secure, safe job, and we'll talk about that. There's very few opportunities. If you look at what's happening with incomes, Brendan talked about this in the first meeting, 90% of the population are less than $75,000 a year in household income. And that's a big challenge. And here's why that's a big challenge. See, employee compensation just doesn't keep up with the cost of living. If you look at a good job in America back in the 60s, it paid about $5,000 a year. And if you made $5,000 a year in the 60s, you pretty much could pay cash for everything. You weren't rich, but you stayed out of debt. People in the 60s didn't have debt. In fact, they even paid cash for their houses most of the time. Yes or no?
Yes.
Did mom work in the 60s out of the home, outside the home? For the most part, no. Dad worked, right? Now, granted, did Dad only work 40 hours a week? No. Dad worked a lot more than that. The work ethic was really high in the 60s too, right? So Dad worked, did whatever he had to do to bring in that income, and $5,000 a year was pretty good. White picket fence, house, you retired, you worked for a company for 30, 40 years, you retired with a gold watch pension, things were really good in the 60s that way, right?
Right.
Then the 70s, is that funny? Is that not right? Okay, so in the 70s, $10,000 a year was about the equivalent of $5,000 a year. In the 80s, it was $20,000 a year. What's happening every 10 years?
Doubling.
Double. Why is it doubling? It's called inflation, right? And for the most part, jobs kept up. In the 90s, you had to make about $40,000 a year. Now, what did most moms do in the 90s? How many of your moms went to work? My mom went to work, right? Or if you were a mom, you went to work, but probably, right? Why? Because you probably had to make $40,000 a year. Now, in the late 90s, what started to happen to debt? It started to go up like crazy. How come? Because you had to start making $80,000 a year by the time the 2000s hit. But the problem is, the household income, Brandon talked about this, was only about $50,000 a year. So debt started to explode, right? Mortgage loans went through the roof. Credit cards exploded. Student loans started becoming more and more popular. Here we are in 2010, and we're talking $160,000 a year to make the equivalent of what you had to, of about $5,000 a year back in the 60s. Now people look at that and they go, "You're crazy. There ain't no way."
It's true.
It is true, isn't it? And it is true. If you think about the price of a house today versus what it was in the 60s, a house in the 60s cost about 8 to 10 grand. Today, a house costs a lot more than that, right? So today, you got to make. We're not talking about being rich. A lot of you in here, you're looking at it going, "Man, if I made $160,000, I would be rich." No, you wouldn't. You'd have the equivalent lifestyle of what our grandparents and parents had in the 60s. See how messed up we are? Because it's happened so slowly, you don't recognize it. Now it's hitting you in the face now, and you're going, "Oh my gosh," so how many of you are in trouble if you don't make a career change? Right? Now here's the problem. See, incomes are actually less today, like Brendan talked about, right? They're actually about $46,000 a year today, household income. Is that nuts?
Yep.
There's a problem out there. Now, what if you had the solution to that problem? Let me ask you this. If you had the cure for cancer, would you be pretty jacked up and excited about that tonight?
Yeah.
If we're introducing to you the cure for cancer, why would you be so excited about that? And we're giving you the opportunity to join our company. We're the only company that exists that has a cure for cancer. And we're going to allow you to come work with us and help everybody you know that's had cancer or has cancer, help them cure it, right? And do that, right? Would you be excited about that? Why would you be so excited about that? You'd save lives. A couple of you said get rich. Either one, you'd be helping people, right? So whether you just want to get rich or you really want to save lives, you're helping a bunch of people. So you're a good person either way. Some people look at people that said get rich and they're looking at them like an evil look. Hey, they'd still be saving lives. Make sense? Now listen, we're not introducing to you a cure for cancer physically, but we sure as heck are giving you a cure for cancer financially. And not everybody, thank goodness, suffers from cancer personally. But just about everybody suffers from financial cancer, don't they? And we're giving you the ability to go out and cure that cancer. So if you'd be that excited about curing physical, like health cancer, shouldn't you be just excited about curing the financial cancer out there? Is that exciting? And we're the only company that exists that does what Chris Howard just talked to you about tonight. There isn't another company that does it. Look at this. The cost of raising a child is about $235,000 before college. Per child. Anybody got to make more money? Yeah, me too, right? That's a lot of money, isn't it? That's before college. Is that insane? So look, it's not just how much you make, but it's how you make it. There's 4 ways you can earn income in America today. This comes out of a book called The Cash Flow Quadrant by a guy named Robert Kiyosaki. He wrote a book called The Cash Flow Quadrant. Good book, okay? You gotta read it. One way to earn income is to become an employee. That means your income is based, as an employee, you have a job. Your income is based on the position, not the person. No matter who fills the position pays whatever it pays, right? So if you took Bill Gates and he worked at McDonald's taking orders, he would make whatever an order taker at McDonald's makes. I don't know what that is, but it's not very much, right? 15, 10 bucks an hour, whatever it is. $7 an hour. Who works at McDonald's in here? Who can tell me? How much? $7.25 an hour, okay. So that's a challenge. Who's in control of your life when you're an employee? The boss, your employer. They control everything, by the way. They control where you live, what kind of schools your kids can or can't go to, what kind of vacations you can or can't go on, what kind of cars you can drive, if there's a family emergency, whether or not you can deal with it or not, how many days you can take off. They control you. Can you believe that us as grown men and women would allow somebody else to have that much power over us? It's kind of crazy if you think about it that way, right? That you actually allow someone else to tell you what to do for $20,000 a year, $30,000 a year, $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year. You can't pay me enough to have someone else tell me what to do. No way. You ain't telling this dude what to do, right? I'll do what I need to do, right? But is that incredible?